that we are measuring exactly what we wanted to hire.
I dig it. I like how it was fresh out of the oven. Penny, how about you? If something was cooking in the oven this last year, what is going to change this year when it comes to scaling people?
I'd have to agree with Vessela that learning and development is it. I feel that, for so many years in industries, people get always really wrapped up in it just being like recruiting new. But I feel that doing that day in, day out is not yielding the type of results that people are looking for longer term. So yeah, for us here at ecobee in Toronto, that's a massive focus. So how can we develop the folks that we have and, not just necessarily say, what course, conference, training can I send you to, but also looking at, overall potential for how that person can, be in a different team and, learn those different skills and really create those opportunities for them. I think we're getting better at doing that at ecobee for sure. We've had a few, people make some I'd say pretty radical shifts in the jobs that they've had, but it's just keeping that going and keeping that top of mind, as opposed to, scaling as in hiring external.
Interesting. I was hanging out with a friend over the new year and he looked at me and said, it's not a new year. It's just another day. And I think that's an interesting point when it comes to thinking about scaling and it's a new year and you think to start fresh and it's all right, let's start fresh. But at the same time, you've had years that is built upon experience and what you've learned and what needs to happen. So it's interesting to see that your resolutions are based on what has been learned. And it's a different mindset than just scrapping what didn't work last year and starting fresh. So it's not a new year. It is just another day. And this is another podcast of the ScaleUp Heroes. Now we had a ton last year. We're going to kick off this year with a full female panel and Mike as our moderator. And on this podcast, if you haven't been familiar with it, or if this is your first exposure to it, or if you're seeing it on YouTube or you're hearing it on some sort of podcast stream, it is the place where we bring the ScaleUp heroes. Now, ScaleUp is different than startup because ScaleUp means that you've already got funding. You're past some of the drama of the startup phase, but you have your own new drama when it comes to scaling. And that means putting people into seats. That means scaling programs, scaling engineering, scaling finance. And today we're going to talk about where it all starts, which is scaling people. The people behind the programming, the people who are interacting with each other, the salesmen, the saleswomen, the leaders, the managers. How do you scale and how do you hire the right people? Now, all of these are going to be on the website, scaleupacademy.io, if you want a taste of more. Now, my name is Ryan Fullen. I'm going to be your host. I'm the person that kicks it off, gets the energy going. I will be taking notes the whole time, maybe chirping in, and at the end, I will package it all together. What I do during the day is I'm a global keynote speaker. I love traveling the world, meeting with people, and helping them to condense their messaging so that things are less confusing. And there's nothing more confusing than hiring the right people. So, Mike, I'm going to let you take it away and lead this awesome panel as we learn how to scale, hire the right people so that we can continue to grow. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan, and Happy New Year to our audience. And thank you so much to our panelists today to sharing your experience with us. So with us, we have Vessela Krissel, the head of HR at Simplesurance, based in Berlin, and Penny Farinha, the VP of HR at ecobee, based in Toronto. So thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, let's start to get to know yourselves and what you are doing. So Vessela, would you like to start?
Hi, Mike. Thanks. First of all, Happy New Year to everyone. Looking forward for a fantastic 2019. And yes, it's my pleasure to start. My name is Vessela Krissel. I'm head of HR at Simplesurance. Personally, I'm a psychologist, coach, trainer, and a passionate person about people. Therefore, I was very happy when I was invited to join Simplesurance 5 months ago, seeing that it's a company for 6 years already on the market, being founded by Robin von Hein, with the main idea to show how insurances in such a very strict and very well-established business can actually move into insurtech and make insurances Very simple, very easy, lot of fun for us who actually help it, but also very useful for the people nowadays, moving them from life insurances or car insurances, where is the tradition more or less, into insuring what we actually love the most, let's say our smartphones or our tablets or anything that we consider is really important for us. Currently in the company are working more than 150 people. We are 35 plus nationalities, extremely international, very diverse also in terms of age, experience. We are mainly sitting here in Berlin, where currently is one of the biggest startup, but also scale-up hub in Europe. And I'm happy to say that just 2 months ago, we opened our first international, so to say, office in Japan.
Wow, that one I didn't know. Congratulations. That's great news.
Thank you very much. New challenges ahead.
So perfect. Welcome. Looking forward to get to know more. And Penny, what about you? And hope that I'm pronouncing well your name. We didn't talk about it.
Yes, definitely. So my name's Penny Farinha. I'm the VP of HR here at ecobee in Toronto. I've been at ecobee for nearly 3 years. And when I joined, there were 100 employees. So, relatively smaller Toronto tech company. Flash forward to today, we're over 500 people. Today is a very big day at ecobee because we had the biggest group of new hire starts join us today. So we had over 45 people start today, which is wild. Several co-op students, because it's a new co-op term in schools. So ecobee as a company, what we do is we create home automation devices for your house. We have a smart thermostat that is well known, our ecobee 4, and more to come on that front. And then we also have smart light switches. Both of them have an Amazon Alexa built into them. So it's a whole new way of how to live and operate in your house through a whole connected home. And the future is very bright at ecobee, I guess pun intended, given our light switch manufacturing. But, our goal is to become, number one in this space. And, we're definitely pioneers because when we created our smart thermostat, nothing like that had ever existed on, in the market before. But what I really love about ecobee is our overall mission, and what we're here for is, ultimately not just creating great devices that are beautiful in your home, but have a really positive impact in the environment as well. So reducing our carbon footprint in, many ways.
Awesome. So very interesting companies who are really scaling, both of them. So and let's keep the conversation, Penny, about before going deeper into the topic, hiring the right people. So scaling a company has different challenges in the people side of the business, or from a people function perspective. What are the main challenges that you have been facing after the company passed the 100 headcount barrier, let's say?
Yeah. I'd say the challenges here at ecobee that I faced when we were 100 people versus 500 people, there's still like a similar thread, but we've evolved in many ways. I think that, we have learned from the past and, kind of how we need to get up to speed. But when I started, I'd say, the scaling problems were more so, I think the common things at 100 point that it's like getting everyone aligned to who we need to hire and when, and really kind of making a work back schedule of, if we want to launch, this new product, who do we need? How is it all going to work? What is the communication? Those types of things. Whereas, the scaling problems that we faced when we're 500, are still that. We've got a lot better at that. So those things have been really worked out. But, at 500 people, the scaling types of concerns that pop up at ecobee are more so related to, how to develop our people, along with not just developing our product roadmap, but it's like, how can we continually, retain all of these amazing people. We've hired so many people in the last 2.5 years that, you want to make sure that when people are coming, they're not just coming for, a set job, but they're coming for a long-term career path. So I think it's changing that mindset, that it's not just, how to recruit and when to recruit and how to get them kind of aware of ecobee even in the beginning, but, how to develop those people in a meaningful way. May it be through, leadership opportunities of technical leadership or people leadership, or, completely, changing the focus of what their work is, but, really digging into the learning and development sides. And I think that those are the scaling parts at 500, that if you continue to kind of wash and repeat that, what you did at 100, I think it makes it really hard to, get to 500 or 1,000 or beyond if you're not modifying what you did.
Very, very interesting. And we have agreed that we would cover the retention part in another podcast, because just to assure that we cover how to attract the right people at the right pace for the right seats, it's already hard enough to cover in 40 minutes. But yeah, would love to have you back, Penny, to discuss how you guys are retaining people and challenging people to move to new opportunities. And you were talking about learning and development, and I thought immediately about a conversation that I had with Vessela in Berlin some weeks ago, where you won an award putting together a learning and development program, right?
Yes. With my previous company and previous team, currently actually very good friends, not only professional, but also personal. We won Best in Innovative Talent Management Program for Asia Pacific. This was in the beginning of 2017. Back then, it was based on a system how you retain people across 9 offices. This was a big challenge and very interesting, but I cannot agree more with Penny that talking about hiring, it should be always related to developing people, because they go hand in hand. So when I got the invitation to participate in this talk today, I was thinking, how do we actually draw the line between these two? Because even starting from a, so to say, simple conversation with the candidate without showing the development, how they can see themselves in the future in the company and how we see them in the company, it is very difficult to actually persuade them start. And since nowadays more and more companies and managers are realizing that it's not just a cliche, but people are indeed the most important asset of a company, and without them, without training them, then the company cannot reach the levels of whether it's performance, whether it is revenue, of what is actually promised to the company, promised to board members, promised to investors, or even to ourselves. So they definitely go together, and I think there is a very close connection.
Got it. Kind of getting to know what is the mission, vision, values, what we stand for, et cetera, et cetera. So, and what have been the main challenges that you recognized in your path leading people?
Shall I continue? Sorry,
yeah,
Mike.
Of course.
Well, I recognize that it was getting difficult to persuade managers and in general the organization to plan people according to their future and not for the current role that they're needed in the company. I recognize also not only me, but sharing also with many other colleagues, asking about how do you see this position? How do you see this person developing, or doing the, so to say, opportunistic hirings where you see a fantastic person, bright personality, someone that can be developed, someone with potential, and then trying to persuade the hiring manager that this person is the right person, that this person can develop the position or even the team in the future. I think that was one of the main challenges to get the managers on board. And then when they're persuaded, sometimes it is with a lot of talks, sometimes it is with direct examples, or if you get really happy and lucky to hire someone and be able to develop them, then I think it is the nicest part, or let's say the luxury part, where together you develop the way how to hire people and make a very smooth transition to how to develop people. Because I believe also people development is not part of HR job. We are only the support there, but it is the managers who realize, who observe people. They are those who also take care of the people and help them scale.
Got it. So in a nutshell, if I could summarize, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Penny believes that the alignment is one of the main issues, and of course also how to retain people and think about the long-term opportunities that we can offer to them. And Vessela, you believe also that this is the developing talent part of the job that should be owned by the leaders of the team and of those people, but with the support and maybe with some feedback or from yourself. Perfect. And maybe we go to the next question that I'd like to ask you. So nowadays we discuss a lot the talent acquisition sub-function or the recruitment function, and there is some discussion. I've also doing some research between the differences between talent acquisition and recruitment. And Penny, what is your view on that? And I know that Ryan would have a question later in this perspective.
Yeah. So I'm happy to discuss this one. I think it's interesting. When I started off my HR career, I had an internship. And I remember in this internship, it was with a recruiting team at like a very large, like well-known, like international firm. And I distinctly remember, I guess at a very young age, that difference between recruitment and talent acquisition. Recruitment, very much what was happening there, that, you know, whoever applied, whoever was basically in the hopper, they picked the best from that list. And I remember, you know, my like 20-year-old self or something like that, being on all of these phone screens and listening to them. And at the end, you know, the recruiter that I was job shadowing with for this internship turned to me and said, you know, Penny, who would you pick? And I said, can I pick none of them? And they said, no, this is what the job is. You have to pick at least one. And I remember saying, no, I just can't. Like, I just can't pick any of these people. They were lovely for other reasons, but just not, I just knew that they weren't really the ones for the job. And I think that that's kind of when the light bulb went off, that it's like, I could never be in a role that it was just that, you know, said list, here's what it is, you know, you pick the top of the pile and you go from there and just kind of rinse and repeat and continue onward. Whereas talent acquisition in my mind is really stepping back and looking at it more, I guess, kind of, you know, overall, it's like, how can we create, you know, this pipeline for wonderful people, and understanding that, you know, as much as we want to hire and, you know, meet all those goals and do everything that we want to in our business, that sometimes, you know, we've heard it time and time again that, you know, it's better not to hire than make a bad hire. And I think it's getting people in that mindset of, you know, we need to, if we want to scale at the rate that we are scaling up, you know, we need to continually hire only the best of the people to get us there. So for me, you know, talent acquisition is really looking at, you know, cultivating that recruitment experience beyond, you know, just who applies. It's like, you know, outreach, you know, what is your messaging out there in the market, building it from there, and, you know, really finding truly the best people that can really elevate your company going forward. We almost like to call it, you know, kind of to steal on Amazon, but, you know, it's the bar raiser. So, you know, if that person comes in your organization, you know, how are they going to raise the bar for you? And I would put that right back on talent acquisition. So, you know, having that mindset of how to raise the bar in the individual that you're hiring, as opposed to, you know, just hiring to check it off the list and, you know, move on to the next position.
Got it. Vessela, would you like to add something to Penny's thoughts?
I can absolutely agree with what Penny just said, and I had similar experience trying to find people back then when I was not in a position to push myself for the decision of the hiring manager, where I was trying to persuade that hiring just a person is not really making any good, neither for the person, nor for the team, or for the company itself. And that is why just a couple of minutes ago I said that hiring the right people is not just hiring professionals or a very nice person, but how do we fit this person into the team and in the future of the position and the team. So yeah, that's the only thing I can add, but fully agree with what just Penny said.
There is something interesting that I know that Ryan is passionate about, and I'm becoming also, which is we see a lot of engineering leaders, product leaders, marketing leaders, sales leaders, but especially the technical leaders who usually are not too much comfortable going outside, speaking at conferences, writing Medium articles, etc., etc. And it seems that they are trying to position themselves as thought leaders in their space and really talking about why did they move from one company to another, why they are working a specific skill set on their own, something that mistakes that they have done leading their teams, how they are trying to raise the bar. And I know that, Ryan, you are very passionate about helping those professionals to communicate better and to attract, position themselves and their own brands in the best way. So do you have any recommendation to the ones who...
No, my question is, you're using the words like development, developing, raising the bar, and there's this cultural awareness that it's not just about putting somebody in the seat. It's about how do we best make this person fit the team and be the best that they can be. But traditionally, I've seen professional development really only addressing half of the equation. And when you have professional development, from what I understand in a historical term, it's teaching people to become better at their jobs. And that makes sense because it's self-serving for the company. You get better at your job, the company makes more money, and everybody's happier. But there is this new movement, especially with so many companies and so many opportunities, is I believe employees are looking, what can you do for me outside of just my job position? Because yes, I want to do as best as I can for the company, but I also want to grow, whether it's a career within the company or maybe I have other aspirations 10 years down the line. But I haven't heard anybody talk about the word personal branding. And I argue that a corporate brand is the sum of all the personal brands within the company. And we know that messages on the actual the brand channels, like from the company, they don't get as much reach as if your company is sharing about all the amazing things that you're doing. So I'd be curious how you incorporate, building somebody in their personal brand and encouraging them to maybe speak on the company's behalf or write on the company's behalf, or get them comfortable with mentioning the company inside and outside of what they do at work. But is personal branding a dirty word these days when it comes to recruitment? And how does that influence your decision? Because if it's just I love the best in the hopper, it might not make sense. Maybe somebody, you see them as the top of the hopper, but we're talking about the people that you're seeking out because they're experts. I just want to know if personal branding is a dirty word and how it incorporates into this idea of development and raising their bar, kind of irregardless of their specific job duty. But it all sort of works together, right? So that's where I'm curious.
That's a good question. In a previous job that I had actually, probably like 5-6 years ago, what we actually did is there were a few people that had very well-known brands for themselves. And even when they came to the company to work, it's like people were like, oh, you work at, so-and-so's company type of deal. That what we actually ended up doing is going through all of our departments and looking at people to be like, how can we help them further create their personal brand? And it was this like small segment of about 12 people when we had 200 employees or so, and really helping them cultivate it. Because going back to your point earlier that, just to say, dev manager, you should be writing a blog post on this and you're going to be great and it's going to help us, hire and all those wonderful things. We knew that wasn't really working. So it was like, seeking out these people that we were already advocates in the space and, hoping that they'd obviously be advocates for, where they work and what they're doing and their team and things like that, and building up the message that way. It's interesting that you mentioned the dirty word part of it, because I think that some companies can then all of a sudden worry that, they're with their brand, that they're giving these people, a platform to, it's this idea that, if I give you a really great platform, you're going to, have everyone know who you are, and then you're going to go and quit, and then I'm not going to have you anymore. So I almost want to like keep you in a box and keep you all to myself type of deal. I think that's obviously like an older approach. I don't think that's really, reasonable. So I love the idea of creating, a personal brand. And I do find that it's like, in those certain segments, it's also a more, genuine approach that comes across, as opposed to, the like HR team being like the advocates for all things people at ecobee. It's like, there's part of it. It's like, sure, that's great. We want that. But then I think on the other side, for any company, that it's like, if someone wasn't here, it's like, well, I would only hope that your HR team would be, out there kind of with that message and, really positive about it. So yeah, I'm all for, the personal branding aspect, but I think that there's some education that needs to happen internally at companies, so they don't, see it as, the company is there just to kind of build that person's brand, and that fear that that person will leave or something.
Yeah, no, I'm inspired by your comment. There's still hope. I like this. How about you, Vessela?
Ryan, there is definitely hope if you see it like this. I think personal brand is not, and hopefully will never be, a dirty word. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. In my previous company, there was something we created and I really love, and I hope I can also put it in practice here in Simplesurance. We were giving, first of all, a platform of the people in the company, those that are already having some kind of natural leadership position among the team that holds specific knowledge, to have a space where they can share this knowledge with the others. We were calling it knowledge sharing process. And this was the place where people could say they learned something or they tried something, whether it was turning out to be positive or actually a disaster. They could share what they experienced, and they could share with the others and create more or less a discussion panel of how this could be escaped. Like this, people not only shared knowledge, but they also learned, those that were not able to prepare for giving a small presentation, let's say an hour talk, or they learned also how to present in front of the others. And this is what made them feel more comfortable, and made them also not only sharing knowledge, but created a way the others to ask them questions and to see them as experts. Previously, you spoke about developing people and how you develop them. I think developing people into experts is one of the most important things that we can do in companies, because no matter how big we grow, hierarchical development is maybe the worst thing you can do to a deep expert person who is maybe fantastic in what they're doing, but eventually is lacking or is not interested to manage people. And I think the company, to host and to support this personal brand, this is even a step before talking people to come to a job fair or to an official event where they can say something about the company. Because creating the personal brand is just a step before the employer brand that you can create, and where people can say, hey, there is a person I want to work with. And that is why I join the company. Usually those people were the people that are thankful being in the company, they see their opportunities, and they're the least ones that are leaving. They do receive a lot of invitations to leave, but I think if they're treated well, they would rather stay in the company and help.
Excellent. Yeah, and I agree. I find that the more you invest into somebody as a person, the more loyal they're going to be. And I've been in situations where I would have left a long time ago if an employer didn't support me for my role within and outside the company. So I think loyalty is a big part of it. Okay, great. Michael, back to you. Sorry, I'm always curious that angle.
No worries. And it is related with the topic of hiring the right people. So, and how do you attract, also related with talent acquisition, the right people to the business, and also putting the leaders in front or leading the process of attracting the right people to the business. So usually, as you know, we run a lot of scaling up workshops with leadership teams, and we take a lot of time discussing sales and how do we build the system. So how do we build the pipeline? How do we go through the funnel until we got the deal out of our clients? How do we serve our clients, etc., etc.? And it comes to a moment when we need to double in size or triple in size in just the next 12 months that we see, oh, we don't have the same system in place to attract the right people to the business. So, and we need to dedicate much more time to hit. So where should we start and how do we build a world-class system to ensure that we have a very good pipeline of talent to hire at the right time for the business, and also developing them to the different seats that the company needs in different moments of time, and also encouraging our leaders to have the courage to have these tough conversations with the talent that maybe they need to move to another challenge, or maybe they are not anymore the right fit for the next stage of growth of the company, especially when they were the ones who helped those leaders to get there. So all the companies should be very grateful to these individuals. So the question is super long, but where do we start? That's the final question. Where do we start? And Vessela, do you have any ideas about someone who is finally having in place his own or her own people leader and is thinking, okay, let's talk less about sales and give also a lot of voice to the people side and to the people function, because if we don't work on this, we will not be able to attract the talent and retain the talent that we need for the scale-up stage.
Mike, that's indeed a very broad question, and I will try to give as short as possible answer, even though I got tons of ideas running through my head while listening to you. Where do we start? I think is first of all to know where do we want to go. If a company wants to grow, and if a company wants to grow in a certain way, I think it requires, first of all, a lot of analysis. Where do we want to be, and what should be our focus? If our focus is in people and certain type of people that should be hired, I think we should start with that. Or if our focus is to hire certain number of people, these two are usually different things. As you said, if I need to double the size of the company that I'm currently working at, I think sometimes, unfortunately, I wouldn't say the quality, but it's rather the selection could fail at a certain moment, especially because usually companies of our type do not have unlimited HR resources in order to find the right people. So I would go in the other direction. What are the type of the people that we want to hire? And as I said in the beginning, we have just finalized our learning and development program, in which we are having a special attention on talent management, is what we call it. And this is how we attract the right people. On the first place, we created a competency model that is consistent of 6 competences. These are proactiveness, ownership, passion, professionalism, innovation, and team collaboration. We made a study in the company, and we realized that this is what comes the most as important competences that people in the company should have, and people the most mentioned as important for themselves, for the scale. So we used
you are still in, yeah.
I'm still in, okay.
We lost you for 5 seconds, but we get almost the entire method.
So we use these competences in order to create a way how to find and attract people, and which of these competences are fitting which of the teams that we are having. We have many different teams. We have more than 20 teams that are working at Simplesurance. So we wanted to make sure that these competences are really well fitting into the teams. And from there, we are going to develop, because it is now into the development process, we're going to develop a way of attracting the right people, having the competences that we need in order to support the teams. This was for the part of finding the people. And where to find the people, it is usually our colleagues that are supporting the most, by them suggesting other people, by them sharing with us where are the places where they would look for people, or even creating different events where we are showing our expertise and where we can attract professionals who are interested exactly in this expertise that we are having, and that they can join us. The traditional posting advertisements, I think, especially for Berlin, is not doing a very good job, especially if you want to get really good people that are going to make a change in the organization. But I think it's a common work, and it's a very hard work and long process, together with all managers in the company and the different teams where you have the need to hire, in order to have a common strategy of how to find people. And I will just, as I said, I'm trying to make it short. I'll just finish with saying that with every team, we have a different strategy, because hiring customer care agents, it's one thing. Hiring software engineers, it's a totally different approach that we need to have. And for each of them, we are having different way and different teams and people that are involved into this.
And we come back to alignment, Penny, right? So how long did it take to go from 100 to 500, Penny, at ecobee?
Yeah, so in that time, I would say it took about 2.5 years, but I agree with, multiple points that Vessela had mentioned of, really figuring out what your plan is, really heavily looking at referrals. And it's like, the best advice that I can give everyone, it's like, I know that we all want to move really, really quickly, and we should, especially if you need to hire a lot of people, but never underestimate the importance of building a fantastic foundation. Just like many things in life, if you wanted to build, a big house really quickly, you need to really make sure that those nuts and bolts in the beginning are really securely aligned, so you can continually build up from there. So, really getting overall organizational understanding of how to scale up really quickly, understanding, I think one thing that I've noticed in my career is understanding lots of people are like, okay, I want to hire, I want to scale. And it's like, great, 50% of your job will now be interviewing, development manager person. And they're like, but wait, no, like I can't spend that much time. And it's like, it's that mindset that, if we want to achieve great things, all of us are going to have to be kind of changing how we've been working, and really understanding of, how to educate people on the interviewing process, what that really means. And it's not just interviewing people, do they have the capabilities, but do they, exhibit those core competencies and core values of the company, the aspect of, selling someone on a position as well. And it's not just about, say me assessing someone else of, do they fit? Yes, they're in type of deal. But there's so many other factors these days of, how to really, scale an organization quickly that, again, those kind of maybe approaches at 100 people, it just doesn't work much more beyond that type of deal, that, you have to kind of reinvent, what you're doing. And, it's kind of like, you don't just, if you want to move faster, you don't just, kind of run in 100 different directions. You need to, build a system that really works for you going forward. And then that's when I think that, you'll kind of hit this like great point where, people are aligned on what's going on. You're having wonderful candidates come in. You're building a really flourishing experience for those people as well. And you're able to continue to build on that.
Got it. It always reminds me of a quote from Reid Hoffman, who has also an amazing podcast, which is called The Masters of Scale. And he was talking that usually the first 150 people that we hire can kill the company. So it's kind of a little bit fundamentalist in this topic. Usually we would say the first 50, or some people 10, 20. He says the first 150, if we don't get them right, it will not help the company to scale. And I come back to a question, because at the same time, Reid is a fan of blitz scaling, which means that sometimes we need to have bad management in the company to scale fast, and we need to own the imperfection of our systems at that place. And it's normal, because it's a scaling up environment and it will never be perfect. How much should we compromise the quality of the people that we bring in exchange to the scale or to the customer demand that is coming, and to be the first in the leading the category. That was what the VCs and the investors want us to be. So how much can we compromise to not be the first, and at the same time being the first, but having the company imploding after that?
I think that's a really fair question, because, it's really easy for a lot of companies to say, well, I'd never hire anyone, who I shouldn't, and I'm never going to make a mistake, because, that's really relying on, the interview being perfection, and perfection does not exist. So yeah, I'd say that the things to never waver on are the core values of the individual. I've been in scenarios before where someone's been like, they're just brilliant. They just don't work well with people. Maybe we can find, something for them that they can only work by themselves. Those are the scenarios I'd say don't walk, but run from. They're the ones, to your example of 150 people sinking, that would be it. That, understand that, you're not always going to get hiring right, and that's okay. And that's a learning experience, because this whole thing is a learning experience, but it's like really understanding of hiring, based on your core values, and really understanding what those are. And, it's to the concept as well of like, hire 100% on core values and really focus on the potential of that person going forward. So if you have, other strong leaders and also very, capable, high-performing people that you're hiring, I think that it will, and I know that it will work out. We've had really great people like this at ecobee as well, that, they come into the interview and, they're equally qualified, perhaps less qualified than someone else, but we see all these other attributes that they would bring to ecobee to really, kind of increase what we're doing. And these people today continue to be some of our highest performing employees, working in multiple different roles, now in more senior positions as well. So, don't always feel the need to hire someone who has the longest resume or all of the skills and every piece of education and pass every single test along the way. But it's like, really look at that individual as a human and those core qualities that they're bringing to the organization. And those are the things to focus on, and know that, you can teach the skills to do a job, but you can't teach a person personality.
Absolutely. Also, always very counterintuitive. And Vessela, what do you think about the same question, the paradox between scale and compromising on getting in the right people in the business?
I fully agree with Penny. It happens so many times to try to persuade hiring managers that right now, for the hiring for yesterday that they want to do, there is no perfect candidates as of they have in their imagination. But there are one or two really good candidates that are covering most of the most important, let's say, technical points that they need. But they have a personality that the team loves them, and that we see the potential of developing these people. So I can only add that there is a reason why human resources has the word human in it. Sometimes the gut feeling helps a lot.
Got it. Perfect. And we are coming to the end of the workshop. I would have much more questions to go deeper, and I know that you would love to share much more. And we always wrap up the podcasts by asking to our guests. And let's start by you, Vessela. So if you would have the opportunity to talk to your younger self when you were starting at Simplesurance, or even in your last challenge or last role, what would you say to yourself? If you just had the opportunity to say one thing, something that you can be better prepared or to inspire you, what would you say?
Since I'm very fresh at Simplesurance, I'm actually trying to do this. But if I need to go back, let's say 3 or 4 years ago, I would advise myself to think back, because sometimes small things, small steps that seems to be ahead, they end up very big So right now I'm trying to think big and put a very big idea in front, and try to see how this all is going to develop in a much bigger scale than it looks like right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And what about you, Penny?
My concluding thought would be balance. So creating reasonable balance for everything that needs to be done. I think a lot of people get, kind of caught up in this like rush. I need to kind of, focus on everything all at the same time and make it all perfect. But, and I'd say, this is overall in my life, not just for ecobee, but it's like realizing that, trying to cover off 100 things all at once is just not reasonable. But it's like, taking like a methodical approach to it and creating that balance. And I think, that balance, yields greater results in the work that you're trying to do. And then I think for, the person as well, it creates, more of an opportunity for someone to kind of deeply think about things as opposed to, rush to the solution that they feel that they need to maybe by the end of the week, something to that effect.
Perfect. So very good advice for everyone who is listening the podcast. Before giving the word back to Ryan, we are always open to get suggestions about upcoming topics, upcoming panelists to come to the show. And the same with you, Vessela and Penny. Feel free to challenge us with new topics and to come back soon to the podcast. It was a pleasure to learn so much from you today. And word back to you, Ryan.
All right. Well, first off, I'd like to note that this is an all-female panel. I'd like to give a shout out to all the ladies out there in 2019. I believe it's going to be a very strong year. And in a new year, we talk about resolutions. That's how we started the show, and that's how we're going to end the show. But I now have a new list of things to resolve to do based on the fact that you want to scale people and you want to scale it in the right way. So you need to resolve to develop people alongside product. Resolve to make jobs turn into careers. Resolve to get managers on board with people development because it's not all HR's responsibility. Resolve to choose beyond the best in the hopper. Resolve to develop employees to become experts. Resolve to fit people into teams based on competencies. Resolve to think beyond traditional job listings. Resolve to define and align your outreach based on the specific positions. Resolve to build solid foundations first. Resolve to think big. Resolve to create reasonable balance. And resolve to realize that personal branding is not a dirty word. So I think there's a lot to unpack here. And what I liked about this advice is that it was this larger foundational scale. And that is what you have to have first before getting caught up in all the nitty gritties of the systems and processes and procedures. So just like my entire brain dump list of things that I have to do in this new year, as you notice, there are highlighted things. So think big, but find out the elements that you need to do now to bring in the right people at the right time for the right job, because it is wrong to hire the wrong person and have to fire them later. You scale, there's a balance between hiring and growth. You've got to realize that we're all imperfect, but the way to work through it is to think big, have that foundation, and take one bite at a time. So if you enjoyed this, I would say recap, refresh it, share it, leave a comment, and also check out some of the other podcasts that we have. Every week, we bring these heroes, the people who have the capes that you might not necessarily have seen, that are behind the scenes to make scaling actually happen. So check out ScaleUpAcademy.io. And check out the YouTube channel, follow everybody on social. And I'd love to connect with you ladies afterwards. And who knows, maybe I'll come and try to jazz your troops up to improve their personal brand so that they're developed, so that they crush it, so that they're loyal, so that everybody grows and scales. All right. So on the count of three here, we will say Happy New Year. And then that will be the final point for us to disconnect from the world and get back to our jobs. Because for some of us, this is the first day back in the real world in 2019. So on the count of three, say Happy New Year with me. And then Mary behind the scenes will push the stop button. 1, 2, 3. Happy New Year.